All right, let's talk about one of the most famous board games on the planet, Catan. If you've ever wanted to jump in but felt a little intimidated, you're in the right place. By the time we're done here, you'll be all set to start settling your very first island. So let's do this.
First things first, let's focus on this number, 10. This is the only number that really matters. Every single thing you do in this game, every road you build, every settlement you place, it all comes down to being the first person to hit 10 victory points. That's the finish line.
So, how do you actually get there? That is the big question, right? Because getting to 10 points isn't just about rolling the dice and hoping for the best. It's about smarts, it's about managing your resources, and yeah, it's about a little bit of clever deal-making.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, then get into the island's resources. After that, we'll cover setting up the game, what a typical turn looks like, talk about some game changers like robbers and knights, and finally put it all together to map out your path to victory.
Okay, so let's make it official. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to be the first player to get 10 victory points. The good news is, you actually start the game with 2 points already on the board, so really, you're in a race to get those last 8 points before anyone else.
To build anything, you're going to need stuff. Think of the island of Catan as this rich landscape just waiting to be harvested. It's made up of different types of land, and each one gives you a totally different resource. Getting a handle on these 5 materials is like 90% of the game.
First up, we've got lumber, which, you guessed it, comes from the forest. You can think of wood as your expansion resource. You're going to need a ton of it to build roads, and roads are what let you spread out across the island. Next is brick, which you'll find in the hills. Now, wood and brick are the absolute power couple of the early game. You need them both to build roads and to build new settlements. So if you want to grow fast, you need a good supply of both.
Then we have wool, from all those sheep grazing in the pasture hexes. Wool is super important for building new settlements, but it's also a key ingredient for buying these powerful little things called development cards. We'll get to those in a bit.
And of course, you can't have a civilization without food, right? That's where grain comes in, from the fields. Grain is so versatile. You need it for settlements, for those development cards, and maybe most importantly, you absolutely need it to upgrade your settlements into big, powerful cities.
And finally, we've got ore, which you mine from the mountains. Let me tell you, ore is the late-game powerhouse. You need a ton of it to upgrade to cities, which give you more resources and more victory points. A good ore and grain combo is often the secret to winning.
Now, you'll probably notice there's one piece of land that produces, well, nothing. That's the desert. It's just a big empty space, but it's not totally useless. It's the starting home for the robber, and that guy is going to be a real pain. Okay, so now you know what you're trying to get. Let's talk about how you get started. Your first 2 placements on the board are probably the most important decisions you'll make the entire game. No pressure.
The setup is a little unusual. It happens in 2 rounds. In round 1, starting with the first player, everyone puts down 1 settlement and a road touching it. Then, the whole thing reverses. The last player goes first in the second round, placing their second settlement and road. And here's the key. You only get your starting resources from the land touching your second settlement. It's a really smart way to balance the game, so the last player to place gets the first batch of resources to get going.
So, the board is set, everyone has their starting spots. Now the real game begins. Every single turn, no matter what, follows this really simple rhythm. You roll, you trade, and you build. That's it.
Every turn kicks off with you rolling 2 dice. You add them up, and whatever number you get, the hexes with that number produce resources. And here's what's so great about Catan. That roll isn't just for you. If anyone has a settlement on a hex that gets rolled, they get a resource, even if it's not their turn.
After you roll, it's time to wheel and deal. You've got 2 options. First, domestic trade. This is where you talk to the other players. Hey, I'll give you a sheep for a brick. This is where friendships are made and broken. If nobody wants to deal, you can always go to the bank with maritime trade. The standard rate is pretty rough. 4 of the same card for 1 of whatever you want. But if you build on a harbor, you can get way better deals.
In the last part of your turn, the best part is building. You cash in your resources to grow your empire. A road is cheap, just 1 lumber and 1 brick. A whole new settlement is a bit more, needing 4 different resources. The big ticket item is upgrading to a city, which costs a hefty 2 grain and 3 ore. Or you could take a chance and buy a mystery development card.
But, you know, Catan isn't just about peacefully collecting resources and building things. Oh no, there are a few wild cards in the deck that are designed to stir things up and add a little chaos.
Remember all those numbers on the hexes that give you resources? You might notice one's missing. 7. That's because when you roll a 7, you don't get resources. Something very different and usually very bad for someone happens instead.
Rolling a 7 triggers a whole sequence of events. First, if anyone is hoarding cards, holding more than 7, they have to discard half of them. Ouch! Then the person who rolled gets to move the robber to any hex they want, completely shutting down its production. And for the final blow, they get to steal a random card from anyone who has a settlement on that new hex. It's a huge play.
So, what about those development cards you can buy? Well, they're kind of a mystery box. You might get a knight, which lets you move the robber yourself. You could get a progress card, which gives you a sweet one-time power-up. Or you might get a victory point card, a secret point that you keep hidden until you're ready to declare you've won the game.
Which brings us right to the end game. Everything we've talked about, building, trading, moving the robber, buying cards, it's all pushing you toward that one single goal, getting to 10 victory points.
So let's tally it up. How do you score? Well, every settlement you own is worth 1 point. Upgrade that settlement to a city, and it's worth 2. You can also grab 2 bonus points for having the longest road or the largest army of knights, and of course, you've got those sneaky hidden victory point cards, each worth 1. The very moment you can prove you have 10 points on your turn, you shout it out, and boom, you've won.
And that's pretty much it. You know the goal is 10 points, you know the resources you need, and you know to watch out for that dreaded number 7. You've got the complete toolkit for how to roll, trade, and build your way to victory. The only question left is, are you ready to go settle Catan?